All right, good morning. Hello, everyone. Thanks for hopping on to the webinar. We'll just wait another minute to get started and let everyone hop on and let the audio, let everyone's audio kick in. All right, so once again, thanks for joining us today, whether it be you're tuning in live or catching the audio after the fact. I just want to note some quick housekeeping items. So in this session today, we do have a chat function as well as a Q&A function. So we'll go through the presentation, and once that's complete, there will be an opportunity to have some question and answer time with the panelists. And yeah, that'll take place after the session. If you are catching this after the recording, then the contact information will be made available to you once this is posted live. So the Q&A function, you can put your questions in there, and if you like a question, you can thumbs up it and it'll go closer to the top. And I will now turn it over to Steve Tatry to introduce his team and division, and welcome everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thanks for joining us today. So I'm Stephen Tatry, and I'm the Director of Animal and Crop Protection. And I've worked for the Department of Agriculture for about 22 years, and I've had several jobs over that period. Started out as research, and I worked in programs in different sections, and then sort of got into this section on the animal and crop protection side of things. But of course, over that period, it's gone through many changes, so I can't say exactly what those were, but here we are today, and I'm pleased and excited to share with you guys some of the things we do. And I just my first slide here has got a lot of pictures. And so just quickly, we do a lot of different things. So a lot of different services that support our farmers, whether you're big or small or registered or not, I'm sure we have a service for you. So I'm just going to quickly introduce my team. And so I have Kim Knight. Go on to the next slide. And Dr. Wilma Shinkles and Amy Sangsters, who lead, or is the management team to lead all these services that we provide. And they're also my experts. So I have a lot of experts and a fairly large team. So really, I got 35 different staff, and I'm pretty sure they all have their abilities and strengths that I rely on a lot. So as we go through, they're going to provide the priorities in their section. Probably not touching everything, but certainly, if you have questions at the end, you can ask. But there'll also be, you'll see the slide at the very end with our contact information, and certainly feel free to reach us individually as you see fit. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Amy Sangster to talk about some of our services over there.
Okay, thank you so much, Steve. And I'd like to reiterate that it's really great to be here at the Federation of Agriculture this morning, and hope that everybody there joining online can hear us okay. I already know I have probably too much subject matter on my slides, so I apologize if I cruise through a few of them. Just in the interest of time, I may not get into a whole lot of detail, but I do realize this is being recorded. So if you do want to go back and take a look at some of that extra information, I'd certainly encourage you to do so. As Steve mentioned, we do cover a lot of subject areas, and within my group, there are really two kind of distinct groups, I guess, I work with. And one is the pest and regulation group, and the other is the animal and plant lab. So I'm going to speak about the pest and regulation group first. And this group really is responsible for the administration and inspection of a number of acts and regulations as they relate to agriculture. And what you're looking on at this slide is not an entire comprehensive list of all of the acts and regulations in agriculture, but it is a list of the ones that we administer and or inspect within our group. There are a number of them. For example, the Bee Industry Act and the bee industry regulations. We have responsibilities towards both inspection and administration, as well as the Dairy Industry Act. And the Dairy Industry Act has a number of regulations that falls underneath that act. And really, we're responsible for the raw milk production and transportation regulation. And there's an inspection process that accompanies that regulation as well. We're also responsible for the Weed Control Act and its associated regulations, which are the weed control regulations. And as well, under the Agricultural Marketing Act, again, there's a number of regulations that fall under that act, but we're really responsible for the prevention and control of the apple maggot regulations, as well as the Nova Scotia Wine Standards regulations. We have administrative responsibilities towards the Fur Industry Act and the fur regulations, as well as the Wildlife Act, and that would be the game farm regulations and deer farming and marketing of deer production regulations. Further than that, we do offer support in the form of board administrative responsibilities to the Farm Practices Act, and that would be the Farm Practices Board, of course, the Animal Protection Act, which would be the Animal Welfare Appeal Board, and as well as the Meat Inspection Act, which would be the Meat Inspection Board. And next slide, please. Thank you. Again, there's quite a bit on these slides, but I'll touch on them quickly. Some of the, we do spend a significant amount of time working with these acts, and particularly the Bee Industry Act. Just to put this in a bit of context, in 2014, I think there are just over 300 beekeepers, and today we're over 900 beekeepers. So the number of beekeepers since 2014 has increased, I think, about by 200 beekeepers a year. So there's been significant growth in the industry. So this act and the set of regulations that accompany this act are very important. So we do a number of activities underneath this set of regulations. We do maintain a registry of beekeepers. Our apiculturist drafts the annual import protocol and permits, and we conduct hive health and inspection surveys and initiate review of acts and regulations. And any of you that are beekeepers online, I know you would know Jason Sproul, who is our apiculturist. And we also do, within our group of about 5 that are within pest and regulations, we have 2 other staff members too that are able to do bee work and help Jason with this program. So we've got a great team there. I will mention too, this is important, you see on the slide there, extension and outreach. So in addition to performing these inspections, we do have a unique role that we can also provide support, and that's through extension and outreach. And there's a lot of work that goes on in that area as well. So it's a great resource for anyone online, and certainly encourage you to reach out to us. And of course, we work with other various agencies and NGOs and work closely with our provincial partners too. So next slide. And we also house the Dairy Industry Act, the raw milk production transportation regulations, which I mentioned before. Again, we have a strong extension component under this set of regulations, and the main activity under this set of regulations is the inspection of licensed dairy facilities. And so that's really to ensure the quality of raw milk. And so if there are issues that arise, we do have the ability to do some investigation, and again, a lot of support and troubleshooting, and ensuring that we continue to supply a really great quality product. The Weed Control Act also falls under this group, and as I mentioned before, there is quite a range of subject matter we cover. We have currently 5 staff members, each in their own right really are specialists in their areas. So we do have 2 plant protection coordinators. One will be coming on with us in January there. But they're involved in many different projects. One is they're involved with the Weed Control Advisory Committee, which is really a committee that's set out to keep the pulse on any weed issues that arise in the province. And the membership of that committee extends beyond the Department of Agriculture, and there's representation from the other organizations within the province as well. We do have a wild chervil program, which we work with another Department of Agriculture division to control wild chervil on dike land and also provide extension services in terms of how to control that on farm. We conduct a rotating annual weed survey, which allows us to pull data in terms of weed patterns and some distribution issues, I guess, throughout the province. And we're, of course, responsible for helping to review and update some of the legislation and regulations there. Just on a note on that, I know Wilma will probably touch on some of the efforts going on in terms of trying to control animal disease. It's similar, I guess, with plants, and that communication channels and partnership with other organizations are really, really important. And we're certainly a key player there. So next slide. And we have two regulations underneath the Agricultural Marketing Act. And one is really, we offer through a partnership through the Fruit Growers Association, and that's the prevention and control of the apple maggot regulations. And the other is the wine standard regulations, in which we participate in a certification program to ensure that wineries meet established standards for that program. Okay. In addition to the acts and regulations and our responsibilities there in terms of inspection and administration, we also have a number of projects too that we're working on. And one is premise identification, and this really is in support of the National Livestock Traceability Initiative. We have, and this number is a few months old now, but over 1,000 anyways, PIDs that are currently issued through this program. So it's an online registration system, and it's really designed to be used as a disease response and emergency response in emergency response situations. It is online. As a producer, you can go online and register through this. It's a fairly seamless process. And so if you haven't already and you're interested in that, I can certainly send you the direct link if you're having trouble finding it. My contacts will be provided at the end of the presentation. And we're also doing some work in the mass dead stock disposal realm. And Wilma may touch on that a little bit later on as well. There's two examples anyways of some projects that we're working on. There's a lot of work that goes behind the pesticide minor use coordination, and we do have our representative, provincial representative is housed within our group for the national PMUC work. We really provide support to identify solutions for minor crops grown in Nova Scotia under the minor use pesticide program. Again, this is really collaborative work, and we do reach out to industry groups in determining what those priorities are. Next slide. And another program that we help with, along with our partners at Perinia, is the strawberry and raspberry industry nursery inspections. And this was really a program that was developed to meet phytosanitary requirements for export. It involves some in-field inspection, and at the end of the day, approved plants get a blue tag, which indicates that they've met these phytosanitary requirements and gives some assurance for export purposes. The plant health strategy, I wanted to mention, it's a national emergency preparedness program. There are 3 working groups really underneath this strategy, which is the biosecurity working group, emergency response working group, and the surveillance working group. And we do have staff members that are involved in each one of these working groups. You'll find probably throughout this presentation, a common theme is trying to provide really good communication channels in case of emergency, how we can best address some of these issues that may emerge. And so this is a proactive approach to try and establish those communication channels. And we're certainly part of that channel and doing quite a bit of work in that area. So I'll move on next to the other group I work with. And again, we're one big happy family here, but the groups are fairly distinctive. So the other group I have the pleasure of working with is the Animal and Plant Lab. We also refer to this lab as the analytical lab. So it's kind of everything but the pathology lab, I guess, if you want to think of it that way. We have an ISO accredited analytical laboratory, and we do testing really to support and inform industry on production decisions. We have a number of tests we run through our lab. Water, soil, manure, compost, greenhouse analysis. We do a saturated media extract, again, greenhouse waters and nutrient solutions. We do plant tissue analysis, feed, and we do milk analysis too, both on raw and processed milk samples. So again, a whole host of samples there. There are a number of locations where you can drop off your samples. The photo there is in our main office. You know, we really pride ourselves on customer service there. And I think you'll find that when you go to drop your sample off, you certainly phone the lab. Okay. I just wanted to touch on the importance of accreditation. This is a lot of work goes behind the scenes in maintaining accreditation. And as a farmer, you don't often see the work that goes behind that, but to a farmer, it is important because it ensures, gives you the assurances that your results are very good. Our staff are competent in carrying out the tests and that we provide, and so this accreditation speaks to that. It also speaks to that our methods for testing are precise and valid and appropriate, that our equipment is maintained and checked regularly, that our lab is reviewed both by internal and external parties on a regular basis, and ultimately, really, as a producer, this is so you can have a lot of confidence in your results. So the standard that we need to meet is an ISO 17025 standard, and the third-party accreditation body is the Standard Council of Canada. So we're due actually for another audit coming up in January, but we're certainly proud of the results that we've had thus far, and we've always done and had quite a bit of success with that accreditation. After your sample arrives at the lab, there's a lot of work, of course, that goes behind the scenes for sample preparation and analysis. And I just have a photo there of two staff members with two pieces of equipment. You'll see there's a LECO instrument there that does carbon, nitrogen and sulfur analysis. And also we have our ICP, which is one of our workhorses that most of our samples will actually pass through that piece of equipment. Our staff are again in their own right specialists. I often compare them to maybe some of your employees on the farm when you have those really great employees that can get the job done, but also when equipment seems to fail, they seem to know how to troubleshoot that and make things, put things back together and keep things running. And so we do have a really great group of very experienced staff there in our lab, and we're certainly, they do the bulk of the work there. When you get those reports back, there's a lot of work that goes behind them, and they put a lot of pride in what they're doing. Of course, at the end of the day, what you'll receive is a report back. And so after we've done our bit, this is what you'll receive. And we do try to keep those turnaround times to a minimum. You know, we're looking at, you know, it depends on the sample and when the sample comes in, but typically you can expect I think we say 5 to 10 business days. Looking at our last set of turnaround times, we're pretty well hitting under 5 or around 5 days or under. So we're quite pleased with those turnaround times. Next slide. Our fee structure is all online as well. Again, if you have trouble finding any of these resources, please contact me and I can direct you to them. One thing I'll mention about our fee structure is we are a cost recoverable lab because we're a provincial lab. As a registered farmer, in addition to that, you receive a 50% discount. So you get a lot of really, really good value from these reports. The old adage is, I think, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So this is one of your measurement tools and a very tried and true measurement tool. So I really always encourage everybody to send in samples. And a total samples reported. I think arguably we may be one of the largest repository of agricultural samples in the province. And in that in itself, I think there's some value. I won't go through every line here, but I will point out the greatest volume of samples we receive is soils, tissue, water, and of course our raw milk testing as well. So I'm also pleased to see that the soil sample numbers are increasing over the years. I think that's wonderful. And overall, for total samples, they ebb and flow on any given year, but we're always probably running about 25,000 and more samples in a given year. So there's a fair amount of volume that comes through the lab. So those are my contacts, and I think they'll be presented again at the end of the presentation. If you have any questions at all after, or if you're watching this online as it's pre-recorded, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm more than happy to try and answer any questions. And if I can't answer them, I'll certainly find someone who can. So thank you very much.
Hi, so I'm Kim. I'm with the Animal Health Laboratory. Next slide, please. These are my wonderful staff. We're all ready for Christmas. So we have a great team. We have veterinary pathologists, medical laboratory technologists, lab assistants, pathology assistants, administrative staff. They're all wonderful. Some of the smartest people I've ever met are working at the pathology lab. So that's really good folks. Next slide, please. We have a few tests that are accredited through the Standards Council of Canada, like Amy was talking about, the ISO standard. We have tests for E. coli for cheese, and for the antibiotic residue in milk is our accredited testing. We have a biosafety level 2 facility for our bacteriology lab, and we are a member of the Canadian Animal Health Surveillance Network. And while we currently do not perform testing for the CASN network, we are still involved in sharing best practices for technical and quality related lab activities. Our testing supports food safety for producers and meat inspection program, as well as the provincial animal welfare programs, both the Farm Animal Welfare and the SPCA. We do diagnostic testing for veterinary clinics and agriculture producers. We participate in national disease surveillance programs. And in 2021, we performed over 8,000 tests. We do perform a wide variety of work, and the work that we do does help determine testing methods or treatment methods, and we're involved in all kinds of different things. We have 5 main lab areas: bacteriology, which includes client submissions, specimens received for postmortems. Bacteria culture results do help guide treatment and evaluate risk to group or human health risks. I'm actually going to go more detail in each one of these slides, so I'll just flip ahead. Parasitology. So we test all kinds of different animal species to do parasite counts, which again assist in determining treatment plans. And those treatment plans are used to improve animal or herd health. Microbiology, that's our food safety testing. So we do KISS testing, which is antibiotic residue testing in animal tissues. The meat inspection program does use that testing in the plants, and they send specimens to us. The CHARM testing is detection of antibiotic residue in milk that supports our dairy industry, and E. coli testing in cheese products. And we're currently working on adding Staph aureus to our E. coli testing in cheese products. Animal health, antibiotic sensitivity does promote good antibiotic stewardship. And next slide, please. We also have an avian serology lab. You may have heard of ELISA testing. Well, this is our avian serology lab. It is used to test the response of vaccines in poultry animals. Most common specimens come from breeder flocks. These birds are longer lived, and health status is maintained through strict vaccination programs. The test can also be used to detect antibody response to exposure to a field virus strain. For example, broiler type birds experience mortality or uneven growth or due to exposures to infectious bursal disease, a virus that is not currently controlled by vaccine. Serum, which is a part of blood, tests for antibodies to significant avian diseases using the ELISA test. We have a pathology lab and we conduct necropsies and biopsies. So a necropsy is an examination of the full carcass, and a biopsy is a piece of a carcass or a specimen that might be sent in from a vet clinic. So necropsies are submitted by livestock owners to improve herd health by understanding cause of death. Companion animal owners can submit deceased animals to learn about cause of death. SPCA and provincial farm animal welfare officers submit necropsies to support their investigations in court cases. Veterinary pathologists may be required to go to court to provide expert testimony. Biopsies can be submitted by provincial meat inspectors to assist to determine if meat is safe for human consumption and to provide information to livestock producers. Vet clinics can also submit biopsies to assist in making decisions regarding treatments. The veterinary pathologists work with the chief veterinary officer and other veterinary labs and national programs regarding reportable new and emerging diseases and communicate where appropriate with public health officials. For example, COVID-19, blue-green algae, and African swine fever. And we are working together to help support our agriculture industries. We're also about to undertake a continuous improvement initiative to improve our client service in all of our different lab areas. So that's starting new and exciting. And yeah, that's our lab. If you have any questions, you can reach out. And if I don't know the answers, I'll find them for you. Thank you.
So I guess it's my turn now. I'm Wilma Schenkels, and I am the Chief Veterinary Officer with the province of Nova Scotia. So we can go ahead to the next one. So as the Chief Veterinary Officer, I'm a member of the Council of Chief Veterinary Officers, which has representatives of all the provinces and territories across Canada. And as the CVOs, we strive to ensure harmonization and consistency of animal health and welfare approaches, policies, and information sharing across Canada. We work through a One Health lens, so we look at things from an environmental, animal health, and human health perspective. We deal with the regulatory animal health and welfare aspects. We provide veterinary leadership on any national policies that are being developed, and we look at disease prevention and control and surveillance throughout the country. Emergency planning is also one of our big jobs, and a lot of that going on recently. Okay, next slide. So we also collaborate on animal health issues. So one of our big partners is Animal Health Canada, which is transitioning from the National Farm Animal Health and Welfare Council, which many of you are probably familiar with. We work with them to implement the components of the animal health and the plant and animal health strategy for Canada. We also collaborate regularly with the Canada Food Inspection Agency and with public health agencies on zoonotic diseases that affect both humans and animals. Some of these are, COVID-19, rabies, salmonellas, and avian influenza most recently. Within Nova Scotia, we're responsible for some of the legislation, so particularly the Animal Health and Protection Act and the regulations that are under it, and that outlines the provincial response to diseases, and we're currently working on updating or developing a disease list for Nova Scotia. We also work with the Animal Protection Act, which looks after animal welfare in the province, and the Livestock Health Services Act and regulations, which outlines our farm animal veterinary services. So under that regulations, we have the Livestock Health Services Program, which is a program that aims to ensure that veterinary owners have access to veterinary service. It also maintains a uniform cost for livestock owners, regardless of their distance to veterinary services. And it ensures that eligible veterinarians receive a reasonable income for their services rendered. We currently have 11 vet practices that are enrolled in the program, and they provide approximately 7,000 farm calls per year. Under the health services program, we also have some herd health programs for cattle, mink, sheep, and swine. So those are programs that some of you may participate in, and we certainly encourage participation. We have also established a vet services working group because we do know that there are concerns about veterinary services in the province. And the goal of that group is to create conditions to improve sustainable and effective vet services for livestock producers in Nova Scotia. So the group is composed of our commodity groups, the Nova Scotia Federation of Agriculture. We have some producers on the group, and the Nova Scotia Veterinary Medical Association, as well as veterinarians. So we have provided some input. As many of you know, there is a veterinary shortage across probably North America right now. And so we have provided some input with to the Atlantic Veterinary Colleges on the admissions criteria to encourage more food animal veterinarians. We're also working on a veterinary student experiential learning program for students interested in food animal practice, and working on projects to help develop veterinary client-patient relationships and preventative care models for veterinary work on farms. So some of the animal health interests in the province that we support are the Atlantic Veterinary College Advisory Board. We work with the Nova Scotia SPCA on the board of directors. We work with zoonotic disease and food safety, and particularly in the last a little while, probably COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2, and the risk to farm animals and wildlife. We also work with the Nova Scotia Zoonotic Diseases Working Group with diseases that are of interest to both humans and animals. We also it's okay, collaborate with other groups within the province on animal health priorities, and that includes your Department of Agriculture colleagues, Perennia, the Federation, commodity groups, and other government agencies and academia. So one of the big things that we're working on now is emergency preparedness. A lot of that activity has stemmed from the risk of foreign animal diseases. We're certainly seeing African swine fever spreading across the globe, and so being prepared for an incursion into Canada is one of our key priorities. High pathogenic avian influenza has also surfaced across Canada and in Nova Scotia in the past year. So certainly a lot of work done on emergency preparedness and preparing for future incursions of that, because it is likely to be with us for a while. Foot and mouth disease is certainly an ongoing threat that we do want to be prepared for as well. So under the emergency preparedness lens, we're looking at emergency response plans and incorporating the lessons learned from the emergencies that we have already undergone. And these emergency response plans will probably not only include animal disease response plans, but also encompass emergency responses to, natural disasters, market interruptions, all those things. So we want them to be kind of all comprehensive. And, so we've learned a lot from things that have happened with Hurricane Fiona, with plant shutdowns, and with some of the avian influenza that we're incorporating into these emergency response plans. We're also working on some training exercises to get these emergency response plans active, and looking at, dead stock disposal in the province, because that will be part of our emergency response as well. And that's it for me. So you have my contact information as well if you have further questions.
And so I just want to take a minute and thank my managers for the great presentation, but also I just look at this, and this is just an amazing amount of work and we're doing this this is like every day. So all this work is going on, and whether, things just keep going, right? And so really appreciate that. And it makes a very busy section in the department. And, we're just dealing with issues and looking for solutions daily. So really appreciate that. I think we have a lot of clients across the province from the farmers, but also industry reps, vet clinics, organizations that we serve as well. And a lot of our work is collaborative with other departments, other sections within our department, whether it's policy programs or sector development or regional staff out in the office. So we work very closely with everyone, I think, at some point in time or aspect. And also want to highlight, there was some discussion about the accreditation of our labs, and we're very good at that work, and that's kind of a key component of the success of our labs and the quality of work that's coming out of there. So again, thank you everyone for your contribution today.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve, and thank you